Okay, which of the following are the restrictions of SAP HANA flat file upload? Now here it is asking, when you're importing the flat file to SAP HANA, in that case, what kind of restrictions will apply? What kind of restrictions will apply? Participants, when you're importing file, what kind of restrictions apply? Please see. Go back to the HANA Studio. I click File. I click Import. Data from local file. Click Next. Select the system. Click Next. And here, select the file. Double click on any of the file. Click Header Rows Exists. Select the schema. Just I'm trying to show you. Provide the table name. Click Next. So here you can see. Now what is the limitations here? Participants, please see. Now here you see BUKRS. Now suppose say I have another column over here. Now can you map this column to this? Do you see? Can I map BUKRS to this column? I cannot map. I cannot map BUKRS to the fifth column. So that is the limitation. We can only do 1:1 mapping, but we cannot do 1:many. That is one limitation. And the other limitation is, the other limitation of flat file upload is if we choose the existing table, let's say I'm choosing any existing table, for example. Is that you cannot do here. You cannot make any changes, please see. There is, once the table is created, you cannot make any changes to the target table. So the question here is, what are the restrictions of SAP HANA flat file upload? Please see, participants, what is the right answer here? The upload prevents data type changes when appending data. When you're trying to append data to an existing table, the table which is already created, we cannot append. The upload will prevent data type changes when you append data. Now the other one is, the new table must have 1:1 mapping between the flat file columns and the table columns. The new table must have 1:1 mapping between the flat file columns and the table column. So here it needs to maintain 1:1 mapping between the flat file and the table. You cannot have 1:n. We can only have 1:1 mapping. So that is also the restriction of the importing flat file. Okay, participants. So when importing flat files, the restrictions will apply to 1:many, and the upload prevents data type changes when appending data. Okay, let us go to the next question. Question number 33. You have a table of transaction data with different transaction types. You want to create an analytic view for only one transaction type. How can you ensure that only rows with the required transaction type are displayed in the analytic view? Participants, you have a table of transaction data with different transaction types. You want to create an analytic view only for one transaction type. How can you ensure that only rows with the required transaction type is displayed in the analytic view? So how can you ensure? By creating an input parameter, by creating a filter on a table, by creating a calculated column, by creating a restricted column. Calculated column means it can do calculations. A restricted column can restrict data, but along with a measure. Input parameter can do calculations based on the user input. Based on the user input, it can do calculations. The simple answer for this is creating a filter on a table. But how can you create a filter on a table? Please see, participants. How can we create a filter on a table? Please see. When I go to a customer master, click on data foundation. Now can I do like this? Now when I data preview, click on data preview. Click on data preview. Click on raw data. So here you see all the data. You see, you can see all the data. Now let's say you see AE, AR, different countries data you see over here. But the question here is, the question for this, the answer for this question is, you would like to see only one country. Please see when I right click on the country column, click distinct values. Please see, participants, you can see US, you can see GB, DE, FR, JP, all different countries you can see. But I would like to restrict only one single country. How can I do that? Click add filter. Click on land 1. Click show list of values. Select DE. Select and click OK. And finally click execute. So once you click DE, so here it should only show DE. So this is what the requirement is. But how can you achieve this? So here you're doing a filter, but here what I can do, I can directly go to land 1. I can apply filter over here. So these are called as design time filters. These are called as what? Design time filter. Right click on land 1. Click apply filter. Click show list of values. Select DE. Select DE, click OK. Click OK. Click validate. and click Save and Activate. Click on Data Preview, click on Raw Data, click on Show Log, Generate SQL Console. Please see here. So this is the view. This is the select statement over here. You can see the select statement over here. But what it is filtering over here, so here you can filter only the D. The country D is being filtered. So what is the answer, participants, for this? The answer for this question is, it's simple. Create a filter on a table. So let us go to the next question. Let us go to a corporation with over 15,000 costs to ensure that only one person responsible for the cost center may view salary information for individuals assigned to their cost center. How can the corporation achieve this in SAP HANA? Create a dynamic analytic privilege using a cost center and the employee master data. Creating an analytic privilege using the cost center and the salary measures. Create an object privilege on the cost center and employee master schema. Creating analysis authorization using the cost center and the employee master data. A corporation with 15,000 cost centers would like to ensure that only a person responsible for the cost center may view salary information for individuals assigned to their cost center. You can perform the corporation to achieve this in SAP HANA. So how can you do that? So we need to do using the dynamic analytic privilege. We need to execute using dynamic analytic privilege. Because please see here, if 15,000 cost centers would like to ensure that only one person responsible for a cost center may view salary information for individuals assigned to their cost center. So in this case, only the static analytic privileges is not possible. Dynamically, we need to implement the analytic privilege. So scroll to the bottom. We need to implement the dynamic analytic privilege. So the answer is A. Which SAP HANA privilege are used to administer a task such as creating a schema? So creating schema is administered under which analytic privilege? A schema is nothing but the object. Schemas are called as, they come under object. So in order to administer the schema, which analytic privilege you use? System privilege, package privilege, analytic privilege, application privilege. So in order to SAP HANA privileges used to administer tasks such as creating a schema. So if you would like, if you go to the security, in order to create an object privilege, you require a system privilege. Let us double click on the roles. Once we go to the, so here you have the object privilege where you can access the schema. But to access the schema, what do you require? System privilege. Click on the plus icon. Please see here, you'll have something called a system privilege called create schema. So create schema is called a system privilege. If you have this privilege to the user, then we can create a schema. Then in that case, we can create a schema only when you have the system privilege. Okay, participants. Question number 36. Are the participants able to follow the sessions? All the participants are feeling comfortable, or participants find it interesting? Participants are finding interesting? Okay, question number 36. You created an input parameter in an information model. Which of the following can you use this input parameter? What is the question, participant? You have created an input parameter in an information model. In which of the following can you use this input parameter? Where can you use these input parameters? Where all can you use these input parameters? The definition of an information space that leads from an information model. The creation of the BEX query, a reading from the information model. The creation of the business objects web intelligence report directly on the information model. The definition of an object in an SAP business objects universe. So you created an input parameter in an information model. Which of the following can you use this input parameter? So you create an input parameter in an information model. Which of the following can you use the input parameter? The definition of the information space that reads from the information model. The creation of the BEX query reading the information model. The creation of the SAP business objects web intelligence report directly on the information model. The definition of the object, the business objects universe. Okay, so basically input parameters can be used inside the universe. Question number 37. A new user has implemented SAP HANA data model. Which technical user requires the select rights on the new user schema? A new user has implemented the data model. A new user is created on the system. New user is created on the system. Which technical user requires the select rights on the new user schema? Participants, please tell me. There's a technical user which requires a select rights on the schema. It is nothing but underscore sys underscore repo. So you need to have this technical user select rights on the new user schema. So if you go back to the HANA Studio, go to the security, expand, double click on the security. So once you double click on the security, double click on any of the role, click on select the schema, so here click on roles, so so this is the schema. So for this schema, what you need to have, if I go to the user, you'll find a user called _sys_repo user. Right click on the users, click filter. So what is the username? Please see participants. Which technical user requires a select rights on the new user schema? So this is the new user schema _sys_repo. Let us go back, enter the user ID, click hold word, click OK. Double click on the new user. Once you double click on the new user, now here you can notice, double click on the new user, here you can notice they're different privileges out here. So we go to the object privilege, please see. All the schemas, you see, all the schemas should have the select, please see the select to the _sys_repo. So this schema, so whatever the new schema that you create, that particular schema, now you see I created a schema called 123. Now what I need to do, I need to attach this 123. We need to attach this 123 schema. Starting of the session, I created 123. Let's say I'll take this, click OK. So we need to select this and do what? We need to have a select. On this schema, we need to have a select for the user _sys_repo. And here we need to click deploy. So user _sys_repo changed. So now that particular schema, you can select tables from that particular schema. Otherwise, it will throw an error. Otherwise, it throws an error. Okay. Now, question number 38. What do you have to define in an attribute view to reduce the initial amount of data selected from the data foundation tables? Now, in order to restrict data, not restrict the initial amount of data, what you can do, participants? To restrict data, to restrict the initial amount of data, what I can do? Nothing but we can apply a design time filter. Same answer but with a different question. A static filter value on any column in the data foundation tables. So we go back. Click on the projection. Let's scroll to the top. Expand the content. Double click on the attribute view. Right click on the column. Apply filter. This is again nothing but the static. So here you have the static value. Okay, participants. So all that you have here is static. In order to reduce the initial amount of data to be selected, we need to use the design type filter. So next question number 39, sorry. In a left outer join, the left table has 1 record and the right table has 3 records. What is the maximum number of records that you expect in the join result? What is a left outer join? A left outer join is a join that selects all the values from the left side of the join condition. On the left side of the join condition, whatever the data that you have, it selects all the data. And any common value from the right side. Any common value from the right side. So in the left table, how many records you have? In the right table, how many records you have? When you execute a select statement, what is the result that you can expect? Only one. So the answer is B. So what are the consequences of executing a stop activity on a data provisioning view? So when you execute a stop activity on the data provisioning view in SAP HANA Studio for a table that is currently replicated, so what is going to happen? Consequences of executing data provisioning in the SAP HANA Studio for a table that is currently replicated, triggers and logging tables are deleted as a part of stop activity. Okay, participants? Now, where do you find the stop activity in the HANA Studio? Currently, we are seeing the stop activity in LTRC. So in LTRC, when you click on data provisioning, select stop load/replicate. Here I'm trying to execute. But you can find the same option. Go to the HANA Studio. Let us log into the HANA Studio. Click OK. I'm logging into the HANA Studio. Let me also show you the status. So once you stop, what is going to happen? So here you find on your right hand side, we find an option called data provisioning. Click on the data provisioning. Select the system. Click finish. Once we click finish, please see participants. So here you find an option called stop replication. Now let me go and select the same. Let me go and select the same schema. So what was the name of the schema? What was the name of the configuration? The configuration name is Asutosh. So here you need to find the same name over here. So here it is. So let us select this. Now please see participants, for DD02L, stop executed. Now here you can see for DD02L the stop is executed. So either you can do stop from the HANA Studio, or even we can do stop activity from LTRC, but the final result is DB tickets and login tables are deleted. Okay, let us go to the next question. Question number 41. You modified an active analytic view. So we modified an active analytic view in the HANA Studio and saved it without activating it. What is the consequence? The inactive view is not available. Inactive view is in read-only mode. Active view is not available. Active view is in read-only mode. So what is the right? When you modify an active analytic view in the SAP HANA Studio, you saved it without activating it. So what is going to happen? The active view is in read-only mode. Still you have the active version of the view, but that active version of the view is in read-only mode. Okay, participants, can you move to the next question? So inactive view is available. Inactive view is available. Is inactive view read-only mode? Inactive view is in change mode. Now, the active view is not available or it's available. Active view is available. But active view is available. Active view is in read-only mode. To the next question. So this question we'll discuss when we discuss about SQL script. When we discuss about SQL script, we'll discuss this question. Let us go to the next question. Excuse me. In a graphical calculation view, you specify the default client to be dynamic. How is the client value determined when the view is used? So in a graphical calculation view, you specify the default client to be dynamic. How is the client value determined when the view is used? So what is the question over here? PC participants? Let us go back. When you click on semantics, when you click on view properties, let me revert to this active, and let me activate this. Let us click on semantics, click view properties. The PC participants here, this is called as default client. Now here you see you have session client and cross client. Now also see participant, now this is inside the information view. Now where are you seeing this? Inside the views. But you see there is another place. Let us scroll to the top and let us close the content. Let us expand the security. Let us expand roles, sorry, users. Double click on the user. Once we double click on the user, please see participants here. Now you see there is something called session client. Excuse me. Now here you see the client value is used to filter. See, the client value is used for filtering in the content models. So whatever the client that you specify over here, it is used to filter in the content. Now this is used to filter in the content. Now, what I'm trying to say, participants, now let us go back. So in a graphical calculation view, you specify the default client to be dynamic. How is the client value determined when the view is used? By checking the session client of the user accessing the view. What is saying? By checking the session client of the user accessing the view. By reading the client of the table in the view. By applying the filtering condition on the client field. By executing a procedure in the user's own schema. So how is the client value determined when the view is being used, participants? So what will be the answer? How is the client value determined when the view is being used? So if you see back, go back. Here you see this is the user. John is the user. How is the client value determined for John? The client value is used for filtering in the content models. You see the content models. So these are nothing but content models. So if you specify for John, he needs to access for client 800. Now here if we specify here session client. So whatever the client that you specify for John, by checking the session client of the user accessing the view. So it's going to check the session client. So in the session client for this user, what is the client value? So it's going to check. So the answer for this is A. So you cannot filter a client on a table. We cannot directly filter a client on a table because we are working on the views. So we're not working on tables directly because we are working on the views. By applying a filter condition on the client field. Please see participant, what is this answer? When you go back, when you go to any of the data model, click on data foundation. Now please see, MANDT is nothing but the client. So what I can do, but when I apply the filter on MANDT, suppose say I click apply filter and then I apply filter for 800 client, for example. Now what is going to happen? Any user accessing this view, they can only see data related to 800. It cannot be dynamic because you're directly hard coding at the view level. And these are called as constraints or called as design time filters. So what is a design time filter? A design time filter is a filter that executes even before the join condition executes. Even any kind of condition that can execute, it can directly filter data on a table. What is the advantage? What is the advantage of using this approach? The advantage is now you know The client should be static. It's not dynamic. Directly you can hard code in the view. All the users can see the same data. The advantage is the performance. So whenever you think a particular company code or a particular sales organization is necessary to be hard coded, directly instead of creating a variable or creating a filter in the front end, we can directly hard code in the back end, which is called as constraints or design time filters. Okay, participants. So what is the advantage? By using a constraint or a design time filter, the views execute faster. Why a view can execute faster? Because logic and data, we're keeping them together. Normally when you apply a filter, what is going to happen? It needs to transfer the data again to the front end. From the back end, it needs to filter, and then it has to request from the front end, and again transfer to the front. Again, the result have to be transferred to the next layer. But the advantage of design time filter, logic and data is kept together. Views can execute faster, and even the condition executes before the join condition. Even before any kind of join condition can apply, it can execute before the join condition. Okay, participants, okay. Now, I'll show you a simple example. Please see, I'll just show you a simple example. Let us click find. Find for BUKRS. I'm right click on BUKRS. Click on apply filter. Click show list of values. I'll only select company code 1000 and click OK. And click OK. Now you see there are so many other company codes. When you right click on this, click edit filter. Click show list of values. Now you see there are so many company codes over here, but I'm only selecting one company code called 1000. Click OK. Click OK. And click on advertisements. Then click activate. And finally click data preview. And I'll click on data preview. And click on raw data. So here you see participants. So here when you see for BUKRS, you see here, when you right click on this, click on distinct values. So what is the only company code that we can see here? Company code 1000. Now you see here participants, how much time it has taken? 168 milliseconds. When you create a design time filter, it has taken 168 milliseconds over here. Now let's say I go back and I'll remove this design time filter. Let us remove the filter. Click validate. Click save and activate. Now I'll do filter from the front end, not from the back end. I'll do from the front end. Click on data preview. Okay, participants, click on raw data. Click on add filter. Click on BUKRS. Now here also you can create a filter. Click on show list of values. Select the company code 1000. Select. Click OK. And click. So here you have an option called execute. So click execute. execute. Now here also you can see the output for company code 1000. So this way also you can see the output, and the other way also you can see output, but the only difference is, so here you can directly doing from the backend, apply filter. This is called design time filters. The filter that you do in the front end is a normal filter. Okay, now coming back to the question, in a graphical calculation view, you specify the default client to be dynamic. How is the client value determined when the view is used? By checking the session client of the user accessing the view. Okay, participants. So basically, it directly checking from the user, and directly it is trying to filter from the user level. Okay. Now, can I let me ask you one more question at this point of time. Whenever you would like to restrict data at the runtime of the user query, what is the concept that we are going to use, participants? Whenever you would like to restrict data at the runtime of the user query, what is the concept known as? Any participants would like to answer? This are used to restrict data at the runtime of the user query. But there we are
Thank you all the participants. We will continue in tomorrow's session. Thank you. Thank you everyone.